some news. Former Vice President Joe Biden will speak later this morning at a union conference in Washington, D.C. His first public appearance since multiple women made complaints about their discomfort with the way he touched them at events over the years. Yesterday, President Trump tweeted a video mocking Biden's statement, where he pledged to be more mindful of personal space. Taking the video and superimposing a photo of Biden holding the shoulders of Stephanie Carter, who recently said she was comfortable with that interaction. Biden responded to Trump, tweeting, "I see that you're on the job and presidential, as always." Meanwhile, a man in Scranton, Pennsylvania, spotted Biden yesterday outside the former vice president's childhood home with a film crew. Sources close to Biden tell NBC that he was indeed there to film a video, but no word yet on an official campaign.
Yeah, you wonder
launch.
what type of video. What's that going to be? Hi, this is my home. This is my home in Scranton, and I came here today to tell you that I am not running for president of the United States.
Joining us now.
That's not what he's going to say.
Real estate show.
We all can wait.
Yeah, exactly. You can
HGTV.
You can buy this. I have checked the market out. It's 7-10% under value right now. You turn it, put in 75,000, flip it, double your return.
Okay.
I'm going to join a disadvantage into an advantage.
Oh my God.
Really off the
Joining us now.
He went there.
Joining us now. Please, joining us, helping us with some sanity. Senior news correspondent at WBUR in Boston and an MSNBC contributor, Kimberly Atkins, and the co-founder of Axios, Mike Allen. Joe, I'm going to ask you to
Take
leave.
this.
Yeah,
Take it.
I
Get
will.
off of me.
Kimberly Atkins. Oh my God. He's tired. He's writing a book, and he's been up all night. No excuse, really. But
So, Mika, if we put out, if you invite us over and you put out like some Hot Pockets to watch, and Citizen Kane comes on, you 5 minutes go Rosebud, and you just walk away, and that's what happens?
yeah, I do.
Oh, my God.
We don't
I
need
do.
to go there.
It just takes a lot.
All right,
Mike Allen, what do you got this morning? And Joe Biden, at this point, where does he stand in terms of the controversies around him versus the legitimacy of his potential candidacy?
Yeah, so we saw in that picture, great scoop there from Pennsylvania man, Scranton man, about him taping that commercial. We're told that he wants to go full steam ahead. We're told that the family is pissed about the coverage, that he's got his back up, and that they were upbeat after the cell phone video. But Mika, here's the dilemma for Vice President Biden, and I've been listening to your comments about where the Democratic Party should draw the line. Here's the dilemma for him as he jumps into the race. In addition to the distraction factor, and of course there's going to be constant scrutiny of every hand movement, of every interaction he has. But here's the other thing, as you know, when you're running for president, when you're running for anything, like one of the biggest predictors of how you're going to do is, can you be yourself? Like one of the biggest lessons of what it takes is you just have to be yourself. And Vice President Biden, by saying he's going to take a new approach to personal space, is having to start a campaign being someone he's not, changing who he is. That's very hard at his point in life.
Well, I'm not sure he's going to completely change who he is, and I don't think you can completely change who you are. And thank God, he's a really nice, generous, funny, connecting guy. I feel bad that this has happened to him. There probably have been some situations where he was affectionate and somebody didn't like it. There's a couple of women who have come forward and made national news out of this. You know, given the fact that we're in the age of Me Too, and maybe I'll bring Kimberly Atkins into this conversation. Correct me if I'm wrong or push back if you disagree, Kimberly, but it seems to be that none of these stories are about sexual harassment. None of these stories are about sexual abuse. They're about personal space. And I'm concerned that it actually is very counter to everything Me Too is about. And as a result, it feels very political. Doesn't feel completely right.
Yeah, look, This is not, and the women who came forward themselves said that they are not saying that this is sexual harassment and that these are not the kind of actions that were involved in the Me Too movement. But I'm going to disagree with Mike a little bit in that I don't think Joe Biden needs to change who he is. I think the start that he made with that cell phone video is in the right direction, in that we do live in a culture, in a society, I know this as a woman, where the personal space of women is not treated the same way as the personal space of men. I think if he acknowledges that and speaks to that and talks about his policies that are meant to bring equality for women, whether it's pay, whether it's economic equality, whether it's how they're treated, particularly in professional spaces. There's a difference between shaking hands and putting a hand on the shoulder and connecting with someone than kissing someone on the back of the head. I can't think of a situation where I want anyone besides my family members or close friends or my boyfriend to kiss me. Certainly not in a professional situation. So I think there's a big difference between those things. Those are the things that he clearly needs to stop doing. And I think he can still be himself. He can still connect while acknowledging that in these spaces, women have not always been given the personal autonomy that men have, and he can be a part of the solution to that.
Well, and Kimberly, you say that you don't want anybody but your boyfriend kissing you or hugging you or getting in your space. That also reminds me there are cultural differences. I brought up the fact that Jimmy Carter kissed Jacqueline Kennedy at the opening of the Kennedy Library. She was shocked and let everybody know that in the North, that's not how things happen. I can tell you in the South, it was people approached each other far differently than they did in the North as well. There are some cultural differences too. Joe Biden obviously comes from a different time and a different culture. But I'm just wondering, at the end of the day, don't you really think, there's a lot of noise surrounding this, but don't you really think Joe Biden's going to have more of a problem in the Democratic primary, not with somebody that he hugged or kissed or rubbed noses with? He's not going to have so much trouble explaining that as he is explaining, for instance, Anita Hill.
Yeah.
Or desegregation in 1970. I think this is the noise we're hearing now, and I think at the end of the day, he would far rather talk about this than talk about what happened during the Anita Hill hearings.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, there are a lot of things that Joe Biden is going to have to confront about his record, things that he should expect. I think this is one of the things, it is one of the things that should be expected since memes have been made about him being too handsy and too close to people for a long time. So I'm a little surprised that it took as long as it did for them to have a response to it. But you're absolutely right. His record on criminal justice reform is going to be brought to bear. Certainly his treatment, his actions during the Clarence Thomas hearings with Anita Hill. I think his statement saying he wishes that there was something he could have done. He was chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He was in total control of that. He's going to have a better answer to that. Certainly, this isn't going to be a cakewalk for him. He is very popular. I'm not saying that these things are going to be disqualifying. It's up to the voters. But I think we're going to very quickly, once he declares he's actually in it, which he's expected to do, that's where it's going to turn.
I feel like, the one after another national story about personal space and Joe Biden invading it feels like it's supposed to, there is a narrative that feels like it's trying to be disqualifying. I think that a lot of the women who have spoken out are really strong, independent, outspoken, intelligent women. And it's just hard not to notice the timing. And Willie, again, about changing behavior, I'm not sure Joe Biden, I would be sad if he changed his behavior. You and I both know him. He's a really wonderful person. And, his connection comes from life experience. It's deep. And I posted on Instagram a story about some kids that my best friend died of pancreatic cancer and sort of taken over her kids in certain times of the year to be close to them. And Biden heard about her struggle when he was on our show and just went right to them and started hugging them and talking to them about being fearless and talking to them about the journey that they're going through. And there was a lot of touching. There was a lot of hugging. There was a lot of crying. And nobody thought it was creepy. And he had the sense of personal freedom to feel that he could share that of himself, and that's what he does. There's nothing, nobody has come up and said anything sexual, except everyone's now calling him creepy on Twitter, and Trump is tweeting memes at him. People know how this works. And I've met men. I've met a number of men in my life that actually need to change their behavior, and they are working on it. And, you know, going to professionals. There's real behavior that needs to be changed, no question. But I don't think Biden's one of them.
I will take the word of people like Valerie Jarrett, who sat at this table this week, who worked at his side for a decade. I will take the word of people like Stacey Abrams, who sat at this table yesterday and said we can't expect people to be perfect. We can expect them to be accountable for their actions, but not to be perfect. I will take the word of people who have stories. Probably everyone at this table has a story like the one you just told. It doesn't mean you discount the stories we're hearing this week. Those are important, and I think the vice president gets that now, that he's going to change the way he conducts himself. But voters, Susan, will take into account whether or not these stories that have come out over the last couple of weeks, and we should underline again that none of them have accused the vice president of sexual misconduct, that they invaded personal space, whether or not you're willing to wipe out his legacy, whether you're willing to wipe out his career and who he's been through the years over these stories. That'll be entirely up to the voters.
And I don't think that is something that disqualifies him. But what I do think is when you look at the Anita Hill stories coming out now, the stories about his son Hunter and the Ukraine, he needs to get into this race or not. He needs to have an operation behind him and respond to these things like a candidate would. He is waiting too long. This is the type of story that will continue to haunt him until he steps up and puts it away and says, I'm running or I'm not.
And we should point out, Sam, he's got a public event today where he likely will address this.
And he should. What's interesting about this to me is we've noted that he has some real vulnerabilities and that this is maybe one, but not the major one. In fact, if you look at the arc of his career, you can make the case that his real strength heading into the Democratic primary was precisely his work on women's issues, the Violence Against Women Act, but also the fact that he has hired and employed and worked with a countless number of very important, influential women. My wife, full disclosure, worked briefly in the Vice President's counsel's office on him. At one point in time, they had an all-female staff, which was virtually unheard of in Washington, D.C. So he has roots and a history in this, and I think what's happening here is, for legitimate reasons, this is getting questioned, and he does have to address it.
Okay. Kimberly Atkins and Mike Allen, thank you both. Still ahead this morning, it's been almost 2 weeks since Attorney General William Barr released his summary of Bob Mueller's findings. President Trump called it great. But the results have not been so great for his approval numbers. Plus, a pair of presidential candidates from the Senate, Kirsten Gillibrand and Congressman Tim Ryan, on his first full day as a White House contender. Morning Joe is back in a moment.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.